Her name is Claire Redfield. We caught her trespassing in our Paris lab facility 10 days ago. She apparently infiltrated the complex looking for her lost brother, Chris Redfield, one of the surviving members of RPD's famous STARS teams.
What is up, everyone? Silent Haven here. Welcome back to another video. Hope you guys are doing well. It's been a while, but we are back. And in hype of the Code Veronica remake, we're going to be taking a look at some of the sounds from the OG Code Veronica X, which in my opinion has one of the best soundtracks in the series. It's definitely up there. There's just so much good about this soundtrack. So basically we're just going to be going through some of the sounds that I was able to locate and or found via the internet, which there's not a lot of information whatsoever, as with most Resident Evils, but this one had little to no information on. This is when the series took it to the next level with the 3D environments. No more pre-rendered backgrounds. Obviously, originally on the Dreamcast in 2000, in the year 2000, it was released. Code Veronica is the continuation of Claire's story, and I believe it was supposed to be like a Resident Evil 3 kind of thing, or at least a mainline follow-up. But then they ended up doing Resident Evil 3, which was kind of like a spin-off deal. So pretty much the same time that Resident Evil 3 was being made, this was also being developed, or an early version of this that ended up getting completely reworked. And so that's also apparent with the soundtrack when it comes to gear that was used, at least from what I found. It seems like they're using pretty much the exact same stuff that they were using on 2 and 3, which I would have thought it was leaps ahead because it was on the next gen, essentially, right? The Dreamcast, but for the most part, the libraries are shared, as with Resident Evil 3 and 2. So this soundtrack was approached in the same way that Resident Evil 2 was, which was more of like a movie style soundtrack in mind, kind of more traditional soundtrack. As you can see in this interview, which I'll read quick. Since Resident Evil Code Veronica's cutscenes and scenarios were like a movie, we adopted the style of scoring used in Resident Evil 2, which was closest to movie music of the series. For Resident Evil Code Veronica, the composition team, myself included, listened to many movie soundtracks and decided on a unified style. As for the event scenes, we fit the music to the scene only after the images were completed. As a result, the number of pieces is enormous, but I am confident that in each case, the scene left a deeper impression. So that was an interview found on SquareEnixMusic.com. So I found 3 credited composers for this game. All of them were new to the series as far as I know. This was their first Resident Evil. I think they did a stellar job. Again, I'm not going to pronounce their names and butcher it, so I'm just going to put it on the screen. Also in this interview, he talks about kind of the direction for sections he wrote. Even the pieces that I arranged from the old Code Veronica music were lengthened, with newly added phrases and themes, so not a single one of them is the same as its original version. So that just goes to show that there was a whole even soundtrack for this old version of Code Veronica that was completely revamped. But that doesn't include the gear, because a lot of the stuff in here, as far as the piano sounds and some of the orchestral sounds, are indeed the same from Resident Evil 3 and 2, at least from my ear. This is just my research and speculation. So in this video, I'm going to be using the Roland SC-88 Pro VST version, which I've heard is not exact to the original gear. I still have yet to get that thing to test it for myself, but that covers a great length of the sounds in this video. Also, the Korg Wavestation, I found a patch that's really close to a sound from a song. And then sample CDs. I used 0G Ghost in the Machine And yeah, that's pretty much it for the sounds I was able to find in this video. I'm really excited to see if they incorporate more of the OG soundtrack in the remake. I hope they do. They kind of did that in the remakes of 2 and 3, more so 2. But hopefully they do some of that in Code Veronica. All right, without further ado, let's get into it, guys. Let's go. All right, we're in Ableton. I'm going to go through and show some of the sounds, and I have a few snippets of tracks that I reconstructed. All right, first up, we're going to be doing, in my opinion, one of the best save rooms from the Resident Evil series, and that is A Moment of Relief is the title. And I don't know what it is about this one. It's got a comforting feeling, but it has kind of that almost gothic feel that portions of this game embody. I don't know how to describe it, but it's very good. So let's get into that. We're going to start with the piano sound. For the piano sound, we're using the patch European PF on the Roland SC-88 Pro. So this is a different patch from Resident Evil 2 and 3, but it's the same piece of hardware. Yeah, great piano sound. All right, for the chime bell sound, I used the Roland SC-88 once again. I mixed the Celesta and Glockenspiel sounds. Here are those two together. All right, and those two together, I just feel like filled out the sound to make it very close to the original. For the strings, I used a combination of the Roland Orchestra expansion for the JV series, as well as the sound canvas. I used ST strings. Also, I used, now both, for all those I'm panning left and right, so it's a whole cluster of them on each side. I also used the Violins No Vibrato from the Philharmonic 2 collection, just because I feel like it sounds a lot more realistic in terms of sample quality compared to some of the other soundtracks. So those combined together, I'll play what that sounds like. And yeah, it's pretty close. The original. Yeah, it's definitely not the one they used. For the sake of this video and for that recreation, it fits it pretty well. So that is A Moment of Relief, one of my favorite tracks from the soundtrack and from Resident Evil soundtracks overall. This is top-notch save room right here. All right, continuing on with the piano patches from this soundtrack, we're going to be doing Lacrymal, another one of the classics off this soundtrack. I feel like this song specifically inspired so many other games. I remember the soundtrack from Tormented Souls really had the vibe of this song in the, I think it was the intro screen, or maybe it is the save room. But yeah, let's hear that, and then I'll show you what I used for them. So for this track, there's two sounds. For the first main piano sound, it is piano 1 is the patch that I thought sounded closest. So different from the patch in A Moment of Relief. Just, yeah, that piano really sounds to me like the one. And so that's the main piano sound that's in the center. And then to the left, you can hear what sounds like a harp. And for that, I used the Roland SC-88 once again, the patch harp, and let's hear how that sounds soloed. So yeah, those two really fill it out and construct that track that is really good track. All right, moving on. This track's called The Palace of Insane. So this is more of your classic orchestral piece here in the Resident Evil style. And here's just a short part of that I reconstructed. I'll play that. Yeah, I didn't really automate any dynamics and such, so it's kind of brute force, but that is the kind of middle section of the Palace of Insane. So for that, it's got that main string sound, which is using the, once again, Roland SC-88, what it sounds like to me. So I use the patch called Strings. So I use that for the sustained strings as well as the plucked part, which comes a bit further in. So that's just the basic patch strings. And then I also used, in combination with those, the Orchestra 2 patch, and let's hear that with it. So then also the flute is once again the Roland, and let's hear that part. Kind of just your classic flute. And then we got the Saint Choir Oz. And let's hear those. That's the choir section of this composition. Right, kind of your classic choir sound, 90s choir. And then we got the Celesta and the piano, which is the European piano. And those two together are just doing the same thing here. All right, and next up we got the music box sound from the track Infants, which is another sound from the sound canvas that was used on the puzzle sound from Resident Evil 3 from the clock tower. And here's that. Just kind of that classic toy piano chime sound. And yeah, that's just a fun one I thought I'd throw in there. Another reoccurring sound from the series. All right, next up is an example of some of the sample CD usage. This is the track called The Suspended Doll, and this patch is called Haunting, and here's how that sounds. So yeah, you can kind of hear that part in the background. This one I found online and it sounds pretty close. That is from the 0G library Cuckoo Land Volume 2 Ghost in the Machine. All right, next up is the track Blanc, and this is the kind of Terminator 2 lead synthesizer sound, and it's using the Wavestation on a patch called Great Sweep. So this is what you hear throughout the track. Yeah, it's got that super Terminator kind of 90s sound to it, which is cool. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I wasn't able to find as many sounds as I hoped, but yeah, I hope you still had a good time and stuck around to the end. If you did, thank you. Hey, if you want to support the channel, I'm doing a monthly postcard print on my website, silenthaven.ca, so that's a way you could support me and get a cool little collectible. As well as you can grab stickers on there. I put up stickers for sale, so if that's something you're interested in and you want to support the channel, go check that out. Major thank you to everyone who purchased my new CD The Night You Disappeared. It sold out in the first weekend, which is insane. Yeah, I'm completely humbled by the turnout for that. And I will at some point do a reprint, but I'm considering doing the Hills Have Fog on CD. If that's something you're interested in, let me know. It's coming up on a year since I released that EP, so could be cool. Stay tuned for more content. I've been trying to get back to the grind of getting these videos out. More Resident Evil hype for Code Veronica. Super excited for the remake. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more like this. All right, guys, until next time, peace.